We are back on the Spin Room, and let's move over to another scene of partisan politics, the U.S., where the Democratic National Committee has decided to exclude Fox News from televising any of its candidate debates. The reason? The recent revelations detailing Fox's close ties to the Trump administration. Joining me now from Washington, D.C., are member of the National Advisory Board of the Trump 2020 presidential campaign, Mica Mosbacher, and from New York, former Congressional Press Secretary Rochelle Ritchie. Thank you both for coming on the show. It's good to see you. Mica, I want to start with you. DNC Chairman Tom Perez, he said this: recent reporting in The New Yorker on the inappropriate relationship between President Trump, his administration, and Fox News has led me to conclude that the network is not in a position to host a fair and neutral debate for our candidates. Therefore, Fox News will not serve as a media partner for the 2020 Democratic primary debates. So the Democrats say, Mica, that these revelations prove that Fox is completely biased. So can you understand their decision to not want to cooperate with that cable company?
No, I was surprised. First of all, Fox News prides itself on being fair and balanced, and many of their hard news programs, for example, Chris Wallace, are extremely biased and extremely without bias, and actually question at times President Trump's policies. The DNC prides itself also on freedom of the press and has been quick to call out President Trump when he makes comments about CNN as being fake news, for example. So I think it feels like retribution, and I think that Martha McCallum, for example, and Bret Baier are seasoned reporters and journalists, first of all, with high ethical standards, and they certainly showed extreme fairness during the 2015-2016 presidential debate. So I was really surprised by this news.
Okay, Rochelle, were you surprised by this? I mean, Fox surely isn't the only network that's biased, but maybe this decision, I mean, could this decision be a slippery slope?
Well, you know, I absolutely agree with Mica on this one. As a former journalist, you know, I think that you have to show both sides to every story. And I think that what, you know, Democrats have to keep in mind with this is that there are a lot of moderate Republicans out there, and there are some Republicans and those who are now Trump supporters, who used to be Obama supporters, who are watching Fox News, and they're interested in seeing what the Democratic candidates for 2020 have to say. Mica's absolutely right. I've been on Martha McCallum's show. Chris Wallace obviously has been scrutinized by both the right and the left sometimes for his reporting. And so, you know, I think it is a missed opportunity, and I think that we have to allow all Americans to hear from possibly the next leader of the free world.
So, Mica, let me get your reaction to what the president said. He weighed in on this on Twitter, and he said, Democrats just blocked Fox News from holding a debate. Good. Then I think I'll do the same thing with the fake news networks and the radical left Democrats in the general election debate. So do you support that kind of move?
Well, he has called out CNN specifically for some biased reporting, and there are times where they don't differentiate between opinions and entertainment news versus hard news. So the president is holding journalists accountable to a higher standard. I'm also a journalist, and I also pride myself on reporting just the facts, which we were taught in Journalism 101 in school. And I agree with Rochelle. I think that this is not a good trend in general to start censoring any news network.
Okay, Rochelle, do you agree with that the president is holding journalists to a higher standard, as Mica says?
Well, you know, I think there's a difference sometimes between journalists and commentators. And so I think what a lot of times you see on television is you see commentators and people take those people as being journalists. And I think that's where there's sort of a conflict. What I do think is interesting about Donald Trump's response to this is that he said that he would be censoring more liberal media. And that makes me wonder, how is he going to do that? Does he have that much power over conservative news outlets where he can start to determine, you know, if they show through certain sort of debates. I thought that was a little interesting, but I don't want us to go down this path where we're already divided enough, right? And so starting to divide information and censor information, I don't think it's a good look for anyone on the left or right.
Okay, I want to move on to immigration now. The Homeland Security Secretary, Kirstjen Nielsen, she insisted Wednesday that the crisis at the southern border is not manufactured, as she faced questions from Democrats for the first time since they took control of the House. But there seemed to be quite a bit of verbal gymnastics in the tense exchanges. Let's have a listen.
To my knowledge, CBP never purposely put a child in a cage if you need a cage like this.
Purposely or whatever, are we putting children in cages as of today?
Children are processed at the border facility stations that you've been at. Some of the
And I've seen the cages. I just want you to admit that the cages exist.
Does it differ from the cages you put your dogs in when you let them stay outside? Is it different?
Yes.
In what sense?
It's larger. It has facilities. It provides room to sit, to stand, to lay down.
So did my dog's cage.
Mica, I'll start with you. It didn't look very comfortable there. She didn't look very comfortable. And when she was asked how many children are detained at the southern U.S. border, she said she didn't have the number handy. And when she was asked how many special interest aliens are detained at the northern border versus the southern border, she said she had to check and would follow up. Do you think she came prepared for this hearing?
Well, she was prepared. I thought part of her testimony was extremely compelling, especially when she pointed out, according to Custom and Border Patrol agents, that 66,000 migrants were apprehended in February alone. That's up from 2010, for example. So there's a huge surge at the border, and she was pointing out that the border, especially these detention facilities that were really designed for 100 people, not for 1,000 people, are at their breaking point. I want to address the cages because Tom Homan was on Fox News yesterday, and he was the ICE chief under 6 different presidents, beginning with Reagan. And he pointed out that those so-called cages, which are not cages, they're wire fencing to actually protect the children from those individuals who've been apprehended that could be violent or potential gang members. He said that these 3,000 plus so-called cages were built during the Obama administration in 2014 and 2015. And that's something that I think the Democrats have failed to acknowledge. Secondly, we do have a crisis at the border. I am from Texas. We have detained in Texas alone over 100,000 individuals who have been arrested and are in Texas jails in the last 2 years. Many of these individuals have been arrested for assault. And these people that are coming in now across the border are family units versus single males that were coming in the past decade from Mexico. And these family units that are coming in are being exploited by human traffickers. Okay. They are promised immediate asylum in the United States, right. and they make this perilous, very dangerous journey.
Okay, Rochelle, what was your take on the cages and all the verbal gymnastics that we saw there?
Well, I was really confused as to why she couldn't really answer the question directly by saying yes or by saying no. Should we be keeping children in cages? Absolutely not. And if that is to protect the children from violent offenders or people who have the potential to be violent, then we need to find a way to separate those children from any sort of adults. I don't think having children and the adults in the same facility, if that's what's happening, is a good procedure to have. And I also don't think that I don't care if it's a cage, if it's fencing around children. I think imprisoning children like that really does a disservice and is not a clear representative of our standards and values of our most vulnerable population, which is our children. But look, you know, obviously I don't think that there's a crisis at the border. If you look at what the Department of Homeland Security is saying, that more than than 90% of the drugs coming into our country are coming through legal ports of entry, and this means that they're coming on trucks. I mean, you cannot look every day. There is literally a tunnel or a cargo ship or a car or a truck carrying drugs, and even sometimes carrying illegal immigrants. So I think it's a false narrative that's being pushed out by the Trump administration as far as this crisis.
Rochelle Ritchie and Mica Mosbacher, that's all the time we have. Thank you very much for that. We're going to have to go to a commercial break. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for coming on the show. Stay with us when we come back. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar has the entire Democratic Party in turmoil over alleged anti-Semitic remarks, some saying she's being unfairly treated. We'll break it all down next. Stick around.